Hey everyone, welcome to 601 Wednesday.
It's
Uh,
starting.
no, it's already started.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome again to 601 Wednesday. We're so glad you're here with First Christian Church of Decatur in your home. Let us know that you're here. Please leave us your comments, um, your prayer requests, and just have a conversation with us. Let us know what you're thinking. Respond to us when we're talking. And know that anything that you post, prayer request, anything like that, is on the internet and stays on the internet. So be aware of that when you post. Um, you'll see tonight that Pastor James is normally doing this with me. He is not here because starting at 3 p.m. today is a protest in downtown Decatur at Decatur Square. And clergy were asked to have a presence there, to be peacekeepers. And so that's exactly what Pastor James is doing. He's wearing his stole, he's listening to the voices of God's people and being a non anxious presence. And so he is there, and that's where he needs to be.
It
And
is.
so I have a special guest tonight.
Not James.
Hi, not James. What is your actual name?
Hi, my name is Henry Brewer Calvert, and I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here, and I can speak for both of us. We're glad that all of you are here with us. Um, so thank you for joining in.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Let's see who's on so far. I see Allison and William and Pat and Barbara Powell and Ruth. Hi, everyone. We're so
It's a
glad you're
good group.
here. It's a great
It's
group.
a group. It's a good group. It's either the start of a great joke or a really great party. Maybe both.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Let us know if you come on, when you pop on, say hello, tell us you're here. Tonight, we want to take time to talk about listening. Um, we want to talk about, and we want you all to answer us as well. What does it mean to listen? How can we, as people, be better listeners? Those are the two main things we want to talk about tonight. And yeah, let's have a conversation about listening, Henry.
Yeah, so I think we should begin by acknowledging that it's kind of ironic to talk about listening, right? You
Yeah.
think, like, well, shouldn't you listen to listen? But this is sort of, and you sort of really kind of want to be doing this sort of discussion in community in a sort of a town hall setting. But I think that in this time of pandemic, this is the best that we can do. I
Mm-hmm.
think that that is enough. And so I just kind of wanted to begin with that and say that we know that this is a really hard and complicated topic, and then what we're going to be discussing tonight is sort of the best that we can do in the setting that we have.
Yeah.
I see comments as well about prayers for James' safety as well as the prayers of praying safety for everyone there.
Protests.
I just
Uh-huh.
want to resonate with that. Yes. We have gotten photographs and confirmation that my father is all right and that the protest went well in Decatur. I think he got interviewed on the local CBS.
I think it's still going
It
on.
may still be going on.
Um, yeah, with that, this
But
conversation ideally would be held in person, or we're not even on Zoom, so we can't hear you guys giving us responses. But for now, we have our 601
yeah.
live. We're going to do it this way, and we want to hear from you in the comments
Mm-hmm.
because each one of your voices matter, and we want you to know that.
So, ironically, let's talk about listening.
So, my first thought about listening is that I've always said I'm a really good listener, and yet I have a tendency, I really have to be intentional about it, to when someone else is talking, and especially if I don't agree with that person, instead of sitting there listening to what they're saying, keeping my mind open, I'm often thinking of what I'm going to say next to reply or as a rebuttal to them. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but that's something I have to be quite intentional about, to listen to what is being spoken instead of getting in my head saying, "Oh, wait, I'm going to tell you how you're wrong."
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Ha ha.
And I agree in the sense in I think in seminary I took a class on pastoral care where they taught us a method for listening that I think resonates really well with that. Where basically, as you're sitting in front of somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you put your whole self into that conversation. You're not thinking about what you're gonna say. You're listening to them in the sense that because at the end you have to actually say and like kind of report back to them what they said. So you say, "I hear you saying this. I hear you saying this." And it's more challenging than you think because it's easy to just like go and just be like reacting as opposed to responding, which we'll get to. But basically, the gist is you say, "I hear you saying this."
That I like that. I also learned that in pastoral care, and I think that opens up the door for accountability. So when
Yeah.
you say, "I hear you saying this," that gives the opportunity for the other person to say, "No, that's actually not what I said. Let's talk about this."
Yeah.
Um, which I think sometimes we miss. And so that it's from initial like hearing that, "Oh, I hear you saying this," it seems kind of like, "Oh, why would you do that over and over again?" But I think that forces us to be intentional in our listening.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't, it doesn't have to be like an exact readback of what the person says, but as you like report back to the person what you've heard them say, you find yourself thinking through often I believe and what my professor said was you find yourself discovering a better way to respond
Mm-hmm.
than just your initial knockback knee jerk um, reaction.
Yeah.
So let's talk about reacting versus responding, as
Well,
Ruth
I
was
want to
saying.
say,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, Ruth, we have notes right here that we bullet point notes of things we wanted to talk about, and you are on the same
Yeah, you're
wavelength
like right there
because
with us.
our next bullet point is reacting versus responding. Um, and we've been talking about this a lot in the last few days, actually. Um, I think reacting when we're listening can often lead to what our initial feeling is. So many times it can be defensive or argumentative or, "Wow, this person just made me really angry and I want to say something mean back." And responding is much different, I think. Responding takes time. It takes self-reflection, I would say.
It takes intentionality.
Yeah, intentionality and self-reflection. Um, and what I mean by that is when we're listening, the ability to step back and say, "Wait, I'm I'm wrong," or "Maybe I need to be quiet here and let this other person speak." Or it could be the opposite. Maybe it's time for me to speak up.
Yeah. There's no easy answer here as to when is the right time to step back or to lean in. A lot of that is guesswork, time, experience in these conversations that take place, especially in a volatile time such as this. But I think it is entirely appropriate to say, I'm out of my depth. I don't know what to say, how to say it. I don't know what's fully going on, and I need to learn. I need to do my research to listen
Yeah.
before you respond.
Um,
That's okay.
that is okay. And hold that thought. I want to continue that. William says to remember the comment, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
What?
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I think it would do us all really well to remember that.
To do twice as much listening as talking.
I think, speaking of having those moments where we admit, I don't know, or I don't know what to say right now, or how to act, how to feel. I think that's where many of us are right now in everything that's happening around us. I think that's definitely where I am.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I knew everything, right? But clearly I don't. No, but I think more seriously, I think it's, from speaking personally as a white heterosexual male, who's very accustomed to everything going my way and having all the answers laid out before me, right in my wheelhouse. It's really important for me in this day and age to take that step back and listen and lean and step back. And lean back in the sense that I'm receiving more than I'm putting out. And I think the only reason I'm speaking tonight is because, okay, A, I was invited and physically coerced, but B, I think I have an obligation to take what privilege I have and speak on behalf of others. And that's sort of why I'm learning about listening and leaning in. What about you?
I think I still have so much to learn about listening, for sure.
Yeah.
And I want to learn from you all. I think I learn something new every day. But one thing this past week that I can't stop thinking about is in children's church and our children's sermons at church, I'm always telling the kids, remember that God is with you and God always listens when you call. And I keep thinking, I've never had any doubt in my mind that God is listening, but as a person, as a pastor, as a Christian, how can I do that too? Am I really listening? Or am I just giving empty words saying, oh yeah, I'm listening?
Oh yeah, I see you. I hear you.
And then dismissing people.
Yeah.
So we want to hear from you. What do you think listening is? How can each one of us be a better listener? And before we look at the comments again, my mom has reminded me this week. She said that we might not always know what to do or how to act, but one thing that we have to hold true is love. And whatever we do, listening, speaking, every action that we make has to be done in love. And I think that's at the root of listening. Let's see some other people's thoughts, shall we?
Sure.
Barbara says, when Bob and I were first married, we had a big disagreement. Oh, when we would have a disagreement, Bob would go for a short ride, and when he came back, we would talk. Both of us had time to cool off. As a result, we never had any fights. That's the response, the reacting versus responding, taking the time and then coming back. Thank you for sharing that, Barbara. Allison says, listening is being open and ready to hear new perspectives. Yes.
That's a new perspective. Yeah.
And
So-
taking them in. Yeah.
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 I just think we should get back to the. I agree with Allison. I think it's there's a level of genuineness of authenticity that comes with real listening. I love what you said a minute ago with that we're not dismissing what is being said or what and already in our head, like looking past it, thinking past it. There's a level of genuine engagement I think listening looks like. That's hard, but really important.
And to add on to that, William
Yeah.
says listening requires discipline.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, it does require discipline. And like Allison said, and you just said, Henry,
Yeah.
it's more than sitting there and going, yeah, I hear you.
Mhm.
It's taking it in and saying, okay, what am I learning from this? How do I respond from this?
Mm.
So I think listening is a communal effort.
Mm.
As part of the body of Christ, we listen together and love together.
Mm.
And that's how we're whole.
Mm.
So let's see if we have any prayer requests, and then we'll do a couple of announcements and end with a prayer.
Can we speak a little bit on like this moment in this current context for a second, and what listening looks like this week, as we're doing prayer requests. I'm thinking about the people in downtown Decatur tonight, and the people all over the U.S. who've been gathering all weekend and these last couple days. Yes, Ansel, it's always to say yes, dear, but it's to lean in. People have been gathering for a really important cause, for really important reasons. Not because they're bored from quarantine, not because they're tired of being cooped up, but because they hear and they're listening. And I just find that amazing.
I do too. And I think we have something to learn from that. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say so.
To learn and to respond.
To learn and to respond and to, I think being able to pause and really think about what you say before you say it. That is hard as an extrovert to do. So much of me is geared towards just immediate response. But that's the lesson. I think lesson of this week and these last couple weeks is just knowing when to be and to listen.
So William says prayers for those in the midst of all that's going on. Remember those that are suffering from domestic violence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We do. Jasmine says being able to admit when you are wrong, but not only admit, but being able to learn from the interaction so that you cannot make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
I think that fear can also be an obstacle that can manifest while listening or speaking out. It is something that is difficult. Absolutely.
A lot of anxiety in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
And Pat says Martin Luther King said that protesters were those who haven't been heard. Yes, the
Yeah.
language of the unheard.
Yeah. It's really good. You guys got this lesson, and we're li- listening to you
So I
for sure.
think we have a couple of announcements in that in our newsletter we have a poll that has gone out for the last couple of weeks on our summer worship series that's called Crossroads, and it's a Google poll, and if you'll click the link there's a few questions on there. We want to hear about your own crossroads and turning points in your life to shape our sermon series for this summer. And also, our virtual VBS registration is up. And so, if you know any kids ages 3 to 12 who would like to participate in that from July 20th through the 24th via Zoom, please let me know and I'll get that information to them. And I personally, well, we want to thank you for being a part of this conversation and for sharing your thoughts on listening with us. And Pat, I love the comment that you ended with, that Martin Luther King said that the protesters were those who haven't been heard. So, as we end with a prayer, are we listening? Are we hearing? Is the question I would ask for all of us.
I think we are, and I think we're listening to many voices right now. But I just want to uplift the family of George Floyd in Minneapolis. It's easy to forget in all the hoopla and the wider politics of the moment that this began with a man being murdered in cold blood on a street in front of people by people charged to protect us. And that's important to center, I think, in all this.
Well, not just one, a history of many people.
Yeah, and then this is a pattern.
Yes. All right,
so I have a prayer to read, and this is by the wonderful Marin C. Tirabassi of Gal Blogs.
And I will post the link.
This is a great prayer that I'm very excited to read. Here is the prayer right here. Okay. Would you pray with us? Dear God, help us to remember that the Holy Spirit gave not one, but two gifts: the power of voice for those who needed to speak, and the power of listening for those who needed to be quiet and listen. The power of listening for those who needed to be quiet.
Amen. We love you all, and we can't wait to see you next time, and we'll see you on Sunday. Bye.
Thanks, guys.